How does one learn to speak English as a second language? English is my second language. I live in India. In India, people usually learn English as a second language. Though the school that I went to was labeled an English medium school, my teachers were usually speakers of Indian English. As a child, I was always exposed to Indian English. The kind of English that I speak today cannot be labeled Indian English. How did I learn to speak like this? It happened consciously. When I was young, I was drawn to the sounds of British English. I was drawn to the sounds of a particular kind of British English. This kind is standard British English, also called received pronunciation. As a young boy, I watched a British television series about Sherlock Holmes. This was Granada Television's presentation of Sherlock Holmes. Jeremy Brett, who played Sherlock, impressed me greatly. His English became my model. I wanted to speak English as he did. This is how the desire to speak English differently originated. But desire by itself was not enough. I had to learn to speak English, and that was not very easy. In fact, that was quite messy. I became aware of the sounds of British English, and I discovered differences between the sounds of British English and the sounds in my own language. Soon I discovered the International Phonetic Alphabet. I looked at the transcription of words in my dictionary. I had a useful dictionary, and it presented transcriptions of every word. I looked at the transcription of the word, and I deciphered the sounds. I listened to BBC radio frequently, BBC World Service, and this helped me surely. And as I listened as a young boy, I must have also acquired the sounds of standard British English. I use the word acquired because there was some unconscious accumulation of knowledge in addition to the conscious learning of this language, this second language called English. Since I started early, it was possible for me to acquire certain aspects of standard British English. I must have started when I was 12 or 13. The early start helped me a great deal. I was also motivated to speak English because of a certain remark that my father made when I was young. My father made a certain observation regarding my English, which hurt me. And because the remark hurt me, I wanted to prove to him and to others that I could speak this language, which was not a native language. I wanted to prove to him and to others that I could speak a second language very well. This kept me going. At a later stage, another person also made a rather damaging remark about my English, which helped me a great deal. He observed that I was not speaking English grammatically. He observed that I was speaking it in an unacceptable way. I was using words which were deliberately chosen for their difficulty and strangeness. I was trying to impress people with words that were generally considered difficult. And so I made mistakes. My knowledge of English grammar was not perfect. When I went to college, a certain respected teacher observed that my English grammar, especially my grasp of prepositions, was not up to the mark. This also helped me. These difficult to accept observations, these hurtful observations helped me. Though some of the people who spoke to me were not trying to hurt me when they made those observations, I found their remarks hurtful. Yet the hurt was helpful. Hurtful, it certainly was, but helpful it also was. So these remarks kept me going. They kept me conscious of my performance. And I worked on the areas which I was not very good at. I worked on my prepositions, I worked on my English grammar, I worked on the words that I used. Slowly I chose to express myself in short sentences, and I preferred clear expression. And I always aimed at speaking English clearly and simply. This didn't happen overnight. It took many years. I'm in my 40s right now, and I'm still learning this language. I happen to be a teacher of English as well. Somehow, in this process of learning English, I became conscious of its grammar. I became conscious of the way people construct sentences. I became aware of the language. And so I chose to be an English teacher. I have taught English at all levels, from the school level to the university level. And today I make this speech so that I may be able to enthuse another person who is trying to speak English well. I like to encourage someone else, someone who is speaking English as a second language. I want to encourage this person with my own example. I want to say, keep trying, keep observing, Keep learning consciously. And don't give up. It may be tempting to give up sometimes, but let there be enough motivation. In my case, my critics were my great motivators. I wanted to disprove my critics. I don't know what motivation is available to you as a second language learner of English, but I hope that this motivation is strong enough to keep you going. I wish you well.